BookTube. Oh, sorry it's been about a month since my last video, but real life kind of, takes over all your time. I've got a lot of books to talk about since my last video, and I don't have a lot of time to just film a long video. It's supposed to be kind of a vlog style video. The first one I want to talk about is Powers of Darkness by, well, that's a question. Who wrote it? This is a Icelandic translation of Dracula. So Dracula written by Bram Stoker. The translator was Valdimir Asmundsson. I read this on an ebook, so I don't have a physical copy, but I'll insert a picture to show you. Powers of Darkness is the Icelandic translation of the title, which I will also put down below because I can't pronounce Icelandic words. But this is a book that was published, Dracula in 1897. Powers of Darkness was about 1901. And for the longest period of time, it just kind of sat unnoticed, outside of the country until I think it was around 1986, where it was kind of realized that there was an original preface to the novel by Bram Stoker. So some people kind of looked into that, and then again, it kind of went unnoticed for a long time until a literary researcher, I believe his name was Hans de Root. If I get the name correct or incorrect, I'll put it down below. Anyway, he came across this book and kind of researched it around 2014 and came to discover that it wasn't really a translation of Dracula. It was almost an entirely new book. Characters have been changed, plots have been changed. The very first part of Powers of Darkness is all that kind of scholarship surrounding this book and all the research that kind of went into it and the various beliefs as to what went on with this translation. Did this translator kind of just create his own book? Or is it also believed, another possibility is that Bram Stoker submitted an earlier version of Dracula to the translator. Debatable. Anyway, my thoughts on the book, it was interesting. I was really captivated. It's kind of broken up into two parts. The very first part sticks with the epistolary plot device that Dracula is known for, but then for some reason switches to a omniscient narrator in part two, and that's where the novel kind of falls apart. The first part is very gripping. You meet our main character, Thomas Harker, as opposed to Jonathan Harker. Again, names have been changed. Some characters are there, some aren't. But our main character, goes to Transylvania, to the Count's castle, to work out paperwork for him to buy real estate and move to England. And it's this whole sense of impending dread and doom where he realizes that he's a prisoner. And I think this translated version almost heightens that feeling more so than the original Dracula. I thought it did a really great job. And then, like I said, when you hit part two, it's very fast. Part two is so short, you almost feel like it's just the outline of a plot. And instead of you experiencing it as the characters are experiencing it, you're kind of told what's happened. Like you're like someone reading an outline, and here's what's going to happen, and this happened, and then this happened, and boop, novel ended. Is it still worth a read? Yeah, if you're interested in Dracula and that whole story, and it's interesting seeing another side of it, another version of it, perhaps an earlier idea of Stoker's, like I said, or just a translator who kind of just decided to write his own book. I don't know. Either way, I thought it was very interesting, but the first half is much better than the second half of the book. The next book I want to talk about is The Hiding Place by C.J. Tudor. First off, I'd like to thank the viewer who pointed out that I had accidentally misgendered Miss Tudor my last time I was talking about this book. I had previously read The Chalk Man by this author, and I absolutely loved it. The Hiding Place features a man named Joe. He is returning home to his town of Arnhill, a place he never really wanted to go back to. A place where there was a mining operation there that had shut down decades ago after several people lost their lives below ground. When he was a kid, him and his gang of so-called friends found a way into the pit, as it's known. And something very odd happened there. Something to his sister particularly, shortly after she goes missing. And that's not the scariest part. It's apparently, as it's described in Goodreads, the description of the book, it's much more scarier when she came back. She's not quite the same person that, he grew up with. This aspect of the story is kind of borderline supernatural, borderline psychological. It's kind of left to the reader. A lot of the questions I had surrounding this aren't particularly answered by the author, so it's kind of left ambiguous. What we have is this man named Joe, who the story is told from his perspective, and right away you don't know, he's kind of an unreliable narrator, which is what the author did very well in The Chalkman. Joe is basically telling us right off the bat that he's lying. He's lying on an application to be a teacher in his old hometown because he needs the job, and also because he needs to be back home for a reason. He has received this strange email from an unknown person saying, "I know what happened to your sister and it's happening again." So very chilling. The story is a bit slow. I didn't enjoy it, like I said, quite as much as I enjoyed The Chalkman, but there's always this weird twist at the end. A lot of intriguing characters. His so-called, like I said, gang of friends were really, well, at least led by a particular bully. He used to be bullied in school, and then he kind of ends up in this group, and now he is kind of one of the bulliers. It's kind of a weird twist, but yeah, I just don't know how to take the supernatural aspect of it. It did get a little weird and creepy with the sister and some other events that took place, especially the way the book begins with this sort of supposed murder-suicide. I don't want to go into too much detail with regards to the events in the pit or what happens afterwards, but it was interesting. If you're looking to try out one of the author's books, I would suggest starting with The Chalkman. I do want to continue with some of her other works. I think The Other People, I think, is another title. I forget what it was, but I have seen another one that I do want to try out, so I will be checking that one out next. Slight change of venue. All right, the next book I read was a cozy mystery entitled Murder at the Manor by Catherine Coles. This is the first in the Tommy and Evelyn Christie mystery series. It's described on Goodreads as a cross between Downton Abbey and Murder, She Wrote. I don't see the Murder, She Wrote aspect, but definitely the Downton Abbey. I mean, even just the setting alone, the time frame is 1920. And we're following Tommy and Evelyn Christie as they go to Tommy's ancestral home. This is Hesselham Hall, and they've been invited there for the weekend, which Evelyn is anticipating as being extremely boring. That is until Tommy's uncle, the Earl, ends up murdered, poisoned to death. And Tommy is also one of the suspects because he's actually an heir to the manor. It's kind of second in line, but still, there's a household full of suspects, and it definitely has like an Agatha Christie kind of feel to it. Perhaps their last name is an homage to that author. I don't know, but it had a lot of really interesting characters, were pretty well developed, a lot of red herrings going through it, and just the setting and everything just had a definite Agatha Christie kind of feel to it, and I enjoyed it a lot, so I definitely recommend it, and if I come across the second book, I will probably continue in the series. Then I read just a novella by an author I read several books on. He's a horror author named Jeremy Bates, and this novella is entitled Black Canyon, and it is not one of his better ones. I didn't enjoy it all that much. He has some that are really good in the horror, and some are more like psychological thriller. This one kind of aims more towards that, and it's told from the perspective of this like 12-year-old boy named Brian, who goes on a camping trip with his parents, who aren't very good parental figures. They tend to drink, they smoke weed in front of the kid and everything, and they don't seem to be all that attentive to him. So he kind of like wanders off on his own a lot, and he's kind of pretty much left to his own devices for the most part until his father has an accident while they're in this canyon, and things get very dark from there. And there's been a couple, like, I think it was The Sleep Experiment, which Jeremy wrote, that I felt was really dark and kind of gruesome. This has a lot of that gruesome aspect to it, where his other book, like The Suicide Forest or The Catacombs, I thought was much stronger novels that really held my attention. This one is just kind of a quick read, being a novella, but I couldn't really get into the character. It gets very dark and a bit, like I said, a bit on the gruesome side that I did not enjoy all that much. So that one only gave like 2 stars. Next up was another cozy mystery. I love the cover of this one. This is Slice of Murder by Rosie A. Point. And this is a first book in a pizza parlor mystery series. And it features our main character, Gina Romano. She has just broken up with her cheating fiance and kind of come back home. She goes to visit her aunt and uncle. Her uncle owns a pizza parlor. And before she even gets a chance to see her uncle, she goes by the pizza shop and sees a chef showing up for work entirely drunk. The place seems much dingier than she's ever remembered it. It's not very well taken care of. She instantly fires the guy and then locks it up and goes to see her uncle, who she finds out has had an accident. He's been laid up for some time, and the chef has been sort of running the place, running it down more like. And then things kind of go crazy from there because she shows up the next day trying to think, well, maybe I can help bring this place back up and help my uncle out, only to find that the guy she just fired, the chef, is dead outside the pizza parlor with a piece of pizza clasped in his hand, and things don't look too good for the pizza parlor or the reopening. I really enjoyed this mystery. I thought it was pretty well done. I'm kind of looking forward to kind of diving into two more. Makes me always crave pizza when they have these cozy mysteries that are featured around food. But I like the character of Gina. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's just a typical kind of cozy mystery with your interesting characters and quirky twists and turns, and I really liked it, so I can recommend it. In terms of that, I think that's everything I've finished reading. I had mentioned some time ago that I was going to be reading The Castle of Transylvania by Jules Verne. I'm just delving in and out of it. I read a bit more last night, so I've moved a bit more. I only have like that much more left to it. I think I'll talk more about it when I finish it, get more details of it. But it is described as sort of a original zombie story, has a little bit of feel like Count Dracula to it and everything like that, since of course it's set in Transylvania. I'm listening to an audiobook, which I hadn't mentioned before. This one is the Cormoran Strike series, if you're familiar with that, by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling. I believe this one is number 6 in the series. I've forgotten the number of it now, but in either case, I accidentally missed the one right before it. I've been listening to these pretty much on audiobooks, and I've been enjoying the audio translations of it and everything. But I kind of missed one. So you're following our main characters, Cormoran Strike, and his assistant, Robin. I don't want to go into detail of it because it is farther in the series, and their relationship changes throughout the series. But they're pretty deep mysteries. This one, I do have to say, as the series has been going, they seem to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, the books are like about this thick, and there's a lot of filler. This one, especially listening to it, is probably not the best idea because there's a lot of reading of tweets. So you can imagine at so-and-so to at so-and-so at so-and-so, hashtag that. It's like having someone read this to you is just, it's monotonous, especially when there are so many bouncing back and forth of these Twitter conversations. It's a lot of characters, and just a lot of this Twitter stuff is just kind of dragging on. I really wish that these weren't getting so big and so thick and so filled with just unnecessary plot. I guess it's not moving the story along, and I'm finding it's about 50 hours or more on audio, which is just absolutely ridiculous. So, but I still want to continue with it and probably backtrack to the previous one just because I want to know what's going on with the characters and everything. I like the main characters more than the storylines these days, but there's that. And then I'm also reading another ebook. This is The Revenant of Thraxton Hall, book 1 in the Paranormal Casebooks of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle by Vaughn Entwistle. This is probably one of those free ebooks I had downloaded. Not a really great image, but this character here is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and his friend Oscar Wilde, who were acquaintances in their day. And it's got a really cool twist to the mystery going on and everything. And again, I'll talk more about that when I actually finish the book. So I just kind of wanted to do a fairly quick video, just kind of catch up on where I'm at and what I've finished reading so far. So that wraps it up. Until next time, hopefully not that long. I do have a bit of a book haul there, but I have a couple more books I need to pick up, and then I will film that video as well. So hope you guys are reading something interesting, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.